Hi, people. Okay, so I haven't gone live. Nobody's in here because apparently people don't think I'm going to go live. Okay, so today was the 19th day that we were in court, and it's getting kind of crazy in there.
Yeah, it was very good. Thank you, Dad.
Oh, you're welcome.
It was yummy. We just had dinner. So we're in Delphi, and the spirits in this house are nuts. So today was interesting in that one thing is with this case that's interesting is that you think that you're going to get in to see it. There's no cameras, and you feel like someone's going to be there to be able to like testify to seeing all this stuff, and no one, literally, like nobody's in there, because by the time you get done with the first session, you have to run down and get in line for after lunch session. So like the same person's never going to see this trial. It's bizarre. So I'm not going to go through like what happened, but all right, Richard Allen looked good. It is hard to hear in there. I know you guys have heard that like a zillion times, but it is really hard to hear in there. And so it takes a moment to like get used to the audio limitations that are in that place. So everyone's walking in, you know, Becky Patty's there, Mike Patty's there, people are there. Anna Williams came in. And today we had kind of a weird thing happen with the media. So the media is usually in like these seats right behind the defense. And today what ended up happening is they had an issue with it, right? So they were like, they had actually Bob Mata was trying to sit down, and they're like trying to figure it out. Two of the investigators who are for the defense investigators were trying to sit down. They're like, how many of you guys are media? The cops came in, they're like asking, and they're like, we're media. They're like, how many seats are left? And there weren't seats. I don't know what happened today. I don't know what the issue was today, but Richard Allen was like looking, he kind of seemed a little bit concerned with the fact that maybe his family wasn't going to get in. So they figured it out. It took a minute. So you know that court starts. We get in at like 8 o'clock. They open the doors so we can walk in. And then we get into the courtroom at about 8:20. And then Gull usually starts at like around 9. That's when she's supposed to start. So about like 8:49 they started. Okay, you guys, what the testimony that I want you guys to hear about today. So as you know, Betsy Blair went again, and it was kind of like she's already gone again. She's already gone one time, so they just wanted to get her up there. And they're trying to reiterate like what time she got there. And the thing is, witnesses are fallible, right? So like what an eyewitness sees, eyewitness testimony has never been something that is reliable, but data is. So why don't we have everyone's data? You might ask, right? I have no idea, but we don't. So let's just get on to who I think is amazing. So Betsy Blair came on, and they asked her a few things. I mean, so here are the jury questions for Betsy Blair. Miss Blair, is it possible the car belongs to someone working at the CPS building? Hi, honey. Hi, Be So Nosy. Thanks for being here. So they were like, is it possible? And that kind of told me maybe they don't know that much about the CPS building, right? So she said, no, it's abandoned. It's an abandoned building in 2017. There was no workers. The second question for the jury for Miss Blair at this particular time was, did someone check to see if it was an employee's vehicle? And again, she's like, I don't know, but it's abandoned, so it's not going to be an employee's vehicle. Witness number 2 was Dr. Stuart Gracian, and he's a psychiatrist who graduated at Harvard Medical School. And he also got a degree in law. He has a JD law degree, and he got it in 86. He's a faculty member at Harvard, and he was there to testify about solitary confinement and what that can do to create a sense of false confessions, right? And I don't know how much I can get. I'll get into it a little. So Rozzy was asking, he said, is there some kind of board that oversees all this stuff. And he was like, well, that's the American Board of Psychiatry. And the lights are amazing here. And they said that he completed his courses in 1977. He's been doing it for a while. And they asked him, have you ever appeared in court before, like as an expert witness? And he said he does. He mostly concentrates on solitary confinement and what that means. And he said he's been hired by the federal government, particularly about a bomber case. And they introduced Exhibit MMM, which is his CV. Most of the exhibits they're putting in the defense are going to be the CVs, which are like basically an outline of what each person does. If you don't know what a CV is, it's kind of like the resume of what they do. And what do you do on a daily basis? He says, I have a clinical practice at home. He lives in New York State. He gives lectures at Harvard. And they said, Rosie said, I reached out to you for you to help this case. And he goes, yep. And he said that you reached out to say if Richard Allen had made statements while he was in solitary confinement, and you wanted me to give my impression of what those were. And you gave me Dr. Westcott's IME report and the videos and the transcripts of correction officers and inmates. And he said, Rosie said, did anything stand out to you? And he said, there was no doubt, Mr. Allen. And then Diener objects. She says, can we approach? And they do a sidebar about it. And before court had started, before jury was there, so out of the presence of the jury, she had said that she put in a motion for opinion, basically a motion in limine. And it was about opinions that Dr. Grassani was going to say. And she wanted to keep that out. She didn't want it to be about opinions that were going to be up there. She wanted to be like a fact-based thing. So she was like, please make sure that that's not something that we're testifying to. And Rosie said, you know what? Like, she doesn't even know what the testimony is going to be. And she's over here like objecting to it. He's a professional. He's an expert. He knows he's not going to say these things. And Dina was like, well, you can't put a genie back in the bottle. And that's what happened with Westcott. So I'm trying to get in front of it. Whatever.
Can I say something to your audience?
Yeah. Julie's here.
Hi, everybody. Hey, I just wanted to say,
You look so cute, Julie.
This lady has
so
the most
sweet.
beautiful heart. I can't wait to
She's
talk to
so
her mama.
Oh my God.
To tell
Hopefully
her
my
what a
mom's not
beautiful
watching.
lady that she raised.
You're
Like, your
so
heart is
sweet.
beautiful.
She's so sweet.
But I wanted to tell you what I noticed today. And
Yes, tell
too.
us.
What I noticed today when Richard Allen came in, tell Nancy she doesn't have to do that pan. When Richard Allen came in today,
You don't have to do that pan, Nancy.
No, you-
We're good.
okay. So when Richard Allen came in today, he comes in with this. It does my heart justice because, like, I don't care who you are. I don't like suffering.
You can
Okay.
wash this pan, is that how-
I don't like the suffering. And I saw Richard Allen suffer a lot early on in the case when I went to the hearings because he wasn't himself. But I do want to say this. He came in, and of course, Andy Baldwin is, talking to him, putting his arm around
He
him.
always does that,
He
right?
does. He
like
puts his
does
arm
this
around
on
like
the chair
this.
all the time.
And what I noticed about Richard Allen is he turned around and he looked at the whole line of
Yes.
support with his family. They had Jamie, Kathy, Janice, his stepdad, and Lead with Love. I think her name is
that who's
Christy.
there?
Christy, and Bob Mata. And he looked. He goes, "Wow." He goes, "Wow."
They've
Wow.
been doing that.
We
the
have
whole
our
time.
lights are flickering. He's like, "Wow," And he said, "Wow." I saw his eyes when he went down the whole list. He's like, and he nodded. He's like, "Wow." There's like basically like there's it's a lot of good people here. But I just wanted to let you know that because listen.
They're saying hi to you too, Julie.
Hi. Listen, here's how I feel about this. We are all created in the image of God. People make mistakes. We are all innocent until proven guilty if you believe in the United States Constitution. And you have to go with that. So the bottom line is this. We all have to have compassion for people and realize that you know, there are some people in power in law enforcement. I mean, you're giving people that you don't know what their history is, and they become a police officer, and you're taking for granted that they're going to like do the right thing, and not all people do the right thing. You know, so
we had some issues with what we saw today, though, right? There was a couple.
I'm not going to crash your ride.
Come on, we could talk about it. I'm like wondering. I'm talking about what Dr. Gracian said today.
Wait, then I'll go get my notes.
Yeah, go get your
keep
notes.
doing your thing.
So, but I'm like barely gonna cover that because I want to do the bombs that happened today. So Gracian is like, like some things happened with him, and he was just basically saying that solitary confinement and what he finds to be solitary confinement. And they had some good. I mean, the state did have some good objections. We'll get into. If we're gonna go, I gotta go in order because I don't want to like screw that part up. But what I really want to tell you guys about. So see, here's the stuff. So what's really important is what Baldwin said in his opening. And part of his opening was that Richard Allen wasn't there and that this gun is not going to be connected to him. And so with me, what I said in the beginning of this live is eyewitness testimony is fallible, right? But what isn't fallible is actual hard data. So if you get the data of like a cell phone and what it says and if someone's there, and we already know at that bridge, and we went to the bridge, what day, like was it Sunday?
Yeah,
that we went there
when we first got here because we thought that was going to be the only day
that we could do it.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's a grind. It's like Monday through Saturday we're doing this, like right, going to court.
I told the police today I just want to go back to work so I can relax.
And she does when she goes back, and she does 24-hour shifts. So when she goes back to work, she does relax.
But it is grueling. So you got to get up at like 5 to 5:30 every single day. So you get in line, and then when you get in, it's a competition. So like if you're taking notes, you're just like, you know, and your back's hurting, and those chairs are super hard, and then you have to look at the clock and make sure that you get to the, you know, like make sure you go downstairs. You might have to miss some of the testimony, which defeats the purpose of taking all these notes. And then you got to run down and get in line because some of these people are already in line for the lunchtime. Like you're not guaranteed a spot. So if you pay somebody like I'm paying somebody $500 to stand in line so we can get in, okay? You're not guaranteed the rest of the day.
No, and that's crazy, right? It never happens in any other trial like that. So
did this happen in Karen Reed trial?
No, I mean we didn't go into Karen Reed.
They had it on camera. Okay.
Yeah, but it also wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't something that we couldn't see that was like kept from us. So let's get into witness number 3 for the day, and that was Dr. Eric Warren. Okay, so he's from Tennessee, and if anyone who followed anything in Tennessee knows what the TBI is, right? So it's the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. So he has a company called SCP Forensic Consultant. So he works for himself and he does the tool markings. That's what he does for a living. And he has his bachelor's degree in molecular biology, and he has his doctorate in chemistry. So he was working. I don't know if this is like it's saying like the Wi-Fi is weird. I don't know if it is or not.
That's Delphi. That's Delphi for you. Delphi.
Hopefully we're fine, but we'll see. So the TBI hired him as a special agent, as a firearm and tool mark examiner. And we just had an amazing dinner. And he also worked on the violent crime team. It's not like the task force, but he went out. So he was in law enforcement. He did it for 10 years. And they asked him, so Rosie asked him, why did you leave? And he said, what I like to do is research-based work. And I want to do more research. And what I really want to do is research how bullets work and what they do. And when you work for a law enforcement agency, you can't do that. You got to do what they want you to do.
Are you talking about Eric Warren?
Yes.
Okay.
So I left.
That was long.
It was long, but I thought they did a good job.
That's good.
So I left to do what I wanted to do. And so he teaches all over the world. So they asked him, actually, you just got back from somewhere teaching across, the ocean. He goes, yeah, I just got back from working in Morocco. I'm teaching them like tool marks and extractions and everything like that. They asked him if he's worked for the prosecution and for the defense ever. And he said, yeah, he's worked for both sides in the past. And they entered his CV, which was an exhibit. And what I appreciated is he said how many pages. He's like, it's 6 pages. I'm like, thank goodness, because every other time I'm like trying to count what the jury's like going through. I'm like, how many pages is that CV? Yeah. He told us his was 6. I liked it. Yeah. So one thing they asked him was, what does critical community mean to you? And what does that word mean to you? And he said, well, there's critical community means there's individuals out here who aren't real firearm experts. So they're professionals, they're experts, but they don't know how to do the things that we need to tell if this bullet came from this gun, right? They don't know the research. They asked, what's PCAST? So PCAST. And he said, it's the President Committee on Advanced Science and Technology. And it was created, I think he said it was the Obama administration is when it was created. Rosie said, did I get in touch with you so that, what did I ask you to do? He said, well, you asked me if I could review ISP's work with Miss Oberg. So that was the girl that went, the lady that went last week, who was the person that said that she did the tool markings and matched Richard Allen's gun to the bullet that was at the scene, what the defense calls the magic bullet. And he said, you asked me to look at her work product and look at her documentation. And I looked at her case file. I looked at her microscope files, her transcripts from interviews that she did this year. And Rosie said, can you generate an opinion? And she said, yeah, I can. He said, yeah, I can. And Rosie said, what's the purpose of microscopic photographs? And he said, it's for documentation. It's very important for cases. So we're talking about microscopic. So when you take a bullet and you take a microscopic picture of it, so you can see the striations, you can see all of the little markings on that bullet, that's like a fingerprint that can match it. And one thing that's really important to say here is that extraction marks. So when I did this case, I've been doing this case for years, you guys, since 2018, 2019. And I never thought, in the beginning, when they caught Richard Allen and they said this was a real scientific thing, I didn't think that it was. I thought that the fingerprint part of a gun is it has to go through the barrel. Well, I was wrong. So there is a way, and it is like a fingerprint, to do extraction marks. But what I like to say is garbage in, garbage out. I know there's some people that don't agree. They're like, Oberg did it right. Oberg did it correctly. But let me just tell you what Dr. Eric Warren said on the stand today. And he is a defense expert, but I found him pretty credible. And I mean, it's not up to me, it's up to the jury, right? So he said, Rosie said, what's the purpose of microphotographs, of microscopic photographs? He goes, well, there's 3 major reasons that you want these microscopic photographs. He goes, number one, first of all, it's important for documentation of cases, but number one reason is you can do a case years ago, and it's really important for recollection. So it'll help you recollect and refresh your recollection of what happened. Number 2, it's to meet the requirements so that another qualified expert examiner can review your case and see if what you did is right. And he said the most important reason, the number 3 most important reason, is because you'll be able to tell people, he goes, people like yourself, like the jurors, how you got to a specific place, how you got to your work. So it's to show your work. So you do these to show how you got to the conclusions that you got. And it can back your work up. And I guess when Oberg was on the stand, she said something like photographs are kind of like a movie. So Rosie had asked, are microscopic photographs like a movie? And he said, actually, not at all. He goes, these photographs have a very shallow depth of field. And if you're a photographer, you know what depth of field is. If you do Instagram photos, it's what you guys call bokeh or what's known as like, when you get like really like fuzzy backgrounds and like, so depth of field is your f-stop. It's how much and what is in focus. And when you have a shallow depth of field, it means you have more blurry stuff in the background. So that's what he's talking about. And so like right now, this is not a shallow depth of field. Like you can see, I mean, maybe not perfectly, but so with these microscopic photographs, he was saying it's very shallow. And he said in movies, you don't have a shallow depth of field, that you can change depth of field during a movie. So it isn't like movies at all. And he said photographs have been a normal accepted form of evidence collecting for years. And I found that interesting because I wasn't there for Oberg's testimony, but basically, I don't know if she said that it wasn't. I don't know. But he made it a point to say that photographs are a very normal accepted form of evidence collecting. Rosie then asked him about subclassing. And he said, what's subclasses? And he said, well, okay, think of an inverted pyramid. And he said, so at the top, this is probably going to be like backwards in my notes. He said at the top right here, woo, love StreamYard, how it goes backwards. It'll be like class characteristics. And he said at the bottom, it's individual characteristics like striations. And in the middle of that pyramid is what's called subclasses. And he goes, think of it this way. If you have a knife and you use that knife to, let's say, like mess with a screw, and you get a little nick on that knife, every time you go to cut a piece of wood or whatever you go to cut, microscopically, of course, that little nick is going to be gone. I mean, it's going to show up microscopically. So you'll be able to be like, that knife right there made that cut. Okay. So he said, that's a subclass. That's an example of a subclass. And I guess that also when Oberg was on the stand, they showed a Sig Sauer video. So Rosie said, did the Sig Sauer video do anything to help the case? And Dr. Warren said, it didn't do anything to help. He said the tool marks and the extractor wasn't even mentioned in this video. And I mean, that's what it was for. That's what he was saying. He was also asked by Rosie, if you have a crime lab that's like a state or like police-owned crime lab, he's trying to make the thing, is it infallible? Have crime labs that are state-owned, police-owned crime labs, have they come under scrutiny? He said, actually this year, Rhode Island's firearm lab was suspended. And a little earlier, Wyoming's lab had to get shut down. Wyoming police's lab had to get shut down. And it's because of the way that they're doing their work. They're not doing it properly. And one thing that I noticed is juror 11. I don't have my juror things. So juror 11 is a male, and I haven't seen him take notes. Like he just sits there. It's a really, and I don't know, I can't baseline him because I haven't been there long enough to baseline him.
He takes very little.
But he does. I haven't personally seen him take notes, so he's taken barely little. And then, but he always has this like kind of smile, and that's probably like just how he is, like normal. He's like during the whole time.
Exactly, the whole time.
The whole time he's like, okay, awesome. But during this, he was taking notes, and I was like, oh, very impressive. Dude's taking notes. Okay. So Dr. Warren said that this is an unfired round. So we know that, right? This is not a round that came out of the chamber. And he goes, we're talking about item number 16. In this case, it's an unfired round. So Rosie asked him, it's so hard for me because he has these. Rosie asked him, he says, hi, Ozzy. Rosie says, are you aware that several firearms were collected? Hi, Go Batman. My God, so good to see you guys. He said, were you aware that several firearms were collected? And he said, yes. And he goes, I'm talking about ISP's number. And first he says 315. And Luttrell, who's one of the prosecutors, goes, whoa, wait a minute. He said it wrong. It's actually he's like, it's 314. He said 315. 315 is the memory box. So Rosie's like, okay, yeah, you're right. So we're talking about 314. So Latrell is making a big deal about it. Fine. It's ISP number 314. So Rosie says, is it appropriate to compare a fired round to an unfired round? And Dr. Warren says, it depends what you're looking at, but you basically want to compare apples to apples. And that's important, right? Because we've been hearing about that. Like, this is apples to oranges. So yeah, you want to look at apples to apples. And he said that, look, the pressure that from a round that's fired is different from one that is not. So if you don't know what happened with this magic bullet, that's defense, it's not a magic bullet, is that it came out of the extractor. So it came out of either the side or like the top, depending on what type of gun it is. It didn't go through the chamber. It wasn't fired. So you have to use tool markings and extractor markings to see if it's like a fingerprint. So they're saying Oberg didn't do that. She fired the round. And she said that she needed to do it because, okay, so this is what they said, what Warren said. He goes, Miss Oberg's notes indicate she fired rounds to get better indentations, better ID marks. And he's like, the work you do in this, so it is a scientific study. You are able to do it, but you have to do it right, okay? He said, what you do has to be reproducible and it has to be identifiable, okay? And he goes, that didn't happen here. These aren't reproducible and they're not identifiable. And he goes, Rosie says, can you compare a fired round to an unfired round? And Warren says, okay, look, there's something called a barrel hooded. He goes, I call it barrel hooded. And what Oberg she called it a chambered face. And I haven't heard it referred to as that. And he was going into it. And Latrell, the prosecutor, goes, hold on a second, I have a question. So it's almost like a voir dire question. It's not an info question. He asked Warren, he goes, have you seen this evidence, like in person? And Warren says, no. And he goes, so Latrell says, so you can't make a conclusion about what you're seeing. And Warren says, no, I disagree with you. So Rosie comes in and he says, okay, hold on a second. Dr. Warren, have you seen photos of this? And they're talking about the micro photos. And he says, yes. And he says, is that enough so you can see what happened so you can have an opinion? And Dr. Warren says, yes. So they move on to, Rosie says, what's a CNC machine? And he goes, it's a computer controlled machine. So you put whatever you put into this machine, it spits out what you find. So I guess it's like something normal that they do. And I took a note that juror number 3 is highly invested. And that's a woman. She has like a bob, like things. I have not seen her be invested, but again, by the end of the week, I'll be able to give you more of a baseline of what they do and what they're doing about it. But she was invested in this. So there was a lot of jurors that were invested. There was I haven't seen this many jurors invested in something that they've been talking about since I've been here, which hasn't been that many days, but usually they're just some aren't taking notes. I don't even know. Warren goes on to describe the subclass on extractors. And he's like, there's no documentation in any of Osberg's, anything about it. There's no documentation on these. And he says, on the barrel hood, or what she calls the chamber face, he goes, I've never heard that being used. I've only heard about it in this case. He goes, the extractor, ejector is how it's usually done. But that's what you have to gauge. Yeah, Diane, they are really smart. Hi, Mama 20. Thank you. They do seem like they're smart. They seem like they ask some of the questions they ask are kind of there's no reason to ask that. It's really interesting. Okay, so then he says the extractor objection is usually how it's done. He's like, you can't draw a conclusion without having those marks on there. That was Dr. Warren's professional opinion. So they brought up an exhibit that they've had before, and it's Exhibit 00. And it is one of the pictures of the micro pictures, okay, of the bullet. And Latrell is kind of making a big deal about it being a picture, like one picture. So Rosie's like, okay, how many pictures have you seen? Like, this isn't the only one you've seen, right? And he goes, no, I've seen about 13 or 14 that I reviewed. This is just one of them. They're like, okay. They're like, this is a comparison microscope. They're asking, we can see a little bit of it. Most of the time it's just shown to the jury. And so they're like, what is this? And he's like, that's a dividing line. So I guess there's this line. I couldn't see it from where I was. And they said that's, Dr. Warren said, that's where we normally line it up for the next photo. And this one is item number 16, which is the unspent round. And he's trying to explain how these pictures are taken. So he's like, a light. So there's not a light coming like from here. There's not a light coming from the side or from the side. There's a light that comes straight down. And the reason that happens when you're taking this photo is because you need to create what they're calling mountains and valleys. So when you have a light that comes straight down, it creates these mountains and valleys that on a bullet, and that's part of this subclass that they're talking about. And it gives you the characterizations of this bullet. And it's really important. So he's looking at this picture and he's like looking at the mountains and the valleys of this picture. And he's just like, it's not conclusive. It's not telling me what is happening. You know, like it's not telling me that this is definitively Richard Allen's gun that fired this bullet. Okay. So when they're doing this, and they're, like I said, like they have this out to the jury and they're explaining it to the jury. Latrell, one of the prosecutors, he gets up and he's standing next to the jury box watching. He's just like furiously taking notes, like just like going crazy taking notes. I'm like, okay, so awesome. Cross is going to be like freaking amazing, right? So they ask him, what is CMS? And Warren says, it's to answer the critics. It was created in 1959 in California. And, I actually looked it up, but I'm going to tell you guys what it is after I tell you a little bit about what Latrell does here. So Latrell interrupts. And again, this is kind of a voir dire thing that they do. And they don't call it voir dire, but it's voir dire where they're like basically asking questions. And they say, Latrell interrupts and asks Warren. And he goes, CMS isn't used in most labs, is it? And Dr. Warren says, some don't use it, but I can't say like if all of them don't use it. And Latrell says, but you don't use it. And Dr. Warren says, yes, I do. And he goes, when did you learn about it? And Dr. Warren says, well, actually in 2022, John Murdoch, who came up with it, invited me to California.
Yes.
And he taught, like, it was just a bomb drop. Like, wait, the dude who came up with CMS invited you privately somewhere and like taught you this. And then you're teaching people about CMS. And then so Latrell goes, well, I didn't see it on your CV, which is a thing like a resume. And Dr. Warren's like, well, it's on there. And then you're like, everyone's just like, oh my God, he didn't read the CV. Like he just looks like an, okay. And I wrote down that juror number 3 is still highly interested, which was weird because she's kind of been like stoic since I've been there. She doesn't show a lot of emotion, but she's really interested here. And they said, what's CMS? He goes, it's a process where you take a photograph and you can count the mountains and the valleys. And he goes, photos are a big part of CMS.
The mountains and valleys with the light.
With the light coming down, right? And he goes, that looking at Miss Oberg's findings that he didn't find anything about the ejector and the ejector marks. And he said it was insufficient proof in Dr. Warren's opinion. And so I do want to point out that this is not a controversial science. This is a science that if it's done right, it is like a fingerprint, but it has to be done right. So let me just read to you guys what CMS is. And it's consecutive matching striae, okay? And basically pattern identification. And this is from the National Institute of Justice. It's going to just show up like, you know what? I'll put it in my community post. I'll put a link if you guys want to read this on your own to see what it says about it. I'll just give you a little bit of it. So pattern matching is the process of determining whether or not the striated tool marks on two objects, such as a fired bullet, correspond. This is a somewhat subjective process based on the observations and experience of the examiner with the ultimate goal of making pattern identification. Pattern matching is the standard method for firearms identification. However, it can be difficult to articulate to a jury how an identification is determined using this process. Some attempts have been made to define this process in quantitative terms as opposed to traditional qualitative methods. An example of this is consecutive matching striation approach. The evolving concept in bullet comparison is the study of consecutive matching stria, CMS, as a quantitative method of describing an observed pattern match. Using CMS is a means of articulating the best known non-match described and defined by the AFTE theory of identification. And it does say CMS was initially proposed in 1959 by Ali Basadi. An analysis of 720 known non-match comparisons of land and groove impressions, he found no instances in which the CMS exceeded 4. So I'll put this in. So basically, Dr. Warren was on point about CMS. And it was really interesting because this is the stuff that so I know that the major things they have against, when they started, the state has against Richard Allen is this bullet and supposedly the time that he was there, and saying that the time he was there is when these murders happened. And I'm hoping, and I think Dr. Warren did a great job of at least being an expert witness to combat. And I know it's always the battle of the experts and who you're going to believe, but I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm biased. It just all of it together and all the stuff that I know and all the work that I've been doing in the past months behind the scenes to help out, it just doesn't equate. And what I don't see it. I don't see him doing this. And if he did, then prove it the right way. Don't lose data in the first 20 days of the investigation. So another thing that happened today after lunch is they brought on Stacey Eldridge, and she is a cell phone expert. And one of the things she said, and I have a little bit of issue with them using her because her expert witness criteria didn't, in my opinion, it was lacking. And you don't want someone that a lay person is going to look at and be like, why did they pick you, right? But she did say some stuff that was not refuted by ISP officers who have looked at the cell phone data. And one of those things, you guys, that she said, okay, so she spent 65 hours doing the investigation for this and 15 hours of prep work for the trial, okay? And she's looked at Celebrite, she's looked at Indiana State Police and like Libby's phone. This is all based on Libby's phone. And she has an iPhone 6. And it's very interesting. She says that she used to use Celebrite when she was in the FBI for a bit. I'm not gonna go over everything exactly with her, so I'm just gonna give you like the little like of what she's said that was interesting. she said that, let me give you the exact times of this. She said, so she's also using UTF, so like United time, like, subtract 5 hours to get to Indiana, Delphi time and all that. But okay. So she says, and Libby's iPhone provider was AT&T. And she says that at 9:33 a.m. GMT time, so 4:33 a.m. On February 14th, the phone just, and we know this, the phone just comes on. They're asking, like, they asked her how that could happen. And she's like, I'm not exactly sure how that can happen. And they asked her, tell us what, like, Libby's cell phone and the towers tell us, okay? And they introduced like this exhibit QQQ, and it's like what AT&T is saying, and Ajay says this will overwhelm the jury because it's hundreds of pages, but Nick McLeland, who's the prosecutor, he can put in the complete record if he wants to publish it, but for the jury we're just going to publish this one page, okay? And if he wants to bring it in, he can do that, and he can question it. It's one page, and it's AT&T, and it's from 5:44 p.m. to 4:33 a.m. And it's the tower, the cell phone, Libby's cell phone to the tower, and how they're talking. And she's saying yes. So they're asking her, Eldridge, and she's saying, what you want is like the time, the date, and the approximate location of where the phone is. And it usually uses longitude and latitude, right? So, and it's in GMT, so you minus 5 hours. And she's explaining why that is. Like, oh, it's a global thing. When you talk across the globe, everyone uses GMT, whatever. And this is February 13th, 2017, when they were missing, to February 14th, 2017, when they were found. And she says that at 5:44 p.m. on the February 13th, that a call comes in and the phone call drops. No data used until 4:33 a.m. So that's the last time. They're saying at 5:44 p.m. No data used. And it says, they asked, so Ajay was asking her the questions, and Ajay says, and by the way, Nick McLeland cannot pronounce Ajay to save his life. He calls her Auger, and like stop himself. It was really interesting why he can't say Ajay, but I mean, maybe it happens to everyone. And so Ajay says, does it show iMessages coming in? And she says it does, because she says like iMessages are like this different thing with iPhones. It's kind of like, And so Ajay says, how does that happen? And Eldridge says data can be used using Wi-Fi. It hits an Apple server between hitting from like me to you, so it registers it. So it says, can you tell us what happens? Remember the biggest ping drop that happened, and
we know it. Is somebody asking you that?
No, I'm going to tell them about it.
Oh,
and they were asking her like, what are pings? And she goes, pings are like, what are pings? You want to define what pings are? And they're like, she's like, it's when. She's like,
it's hey, I'm here.
Good,
and
yes.
Hey, I'm over here. So hey, I'm communicating with you. So this is where I am. This is where you are. We're connecting.
It's like, huh?
And
yeah,
she actually
exactly
said that.
And that was good, right? So they're like, and she's like, well, I know that after 5:45 p.m., AT&T is consistently trying to ping Abby's phone, and they can't until 4:33 a.m. Right? So that's really interesting.
Are you on Eldridge?
Yeah, and skip to Eldridge
yes.
because I want to talk about that very magical thing that happened.
Oh,
right?
that's really good.
It was really interesting, and I just want to read it like totally correctly, because like there's, you guys, like notes for days, like it's just like hands hurting, like I'm massaging myself up. But anyways, she says, I want to get the exact time that it happens.
What number are you at right here? About the
I'm gonna talk about the that really magical thing that happens that we didn't even freaking know about, right? Until today, right?
mm-hmm.
So I don't even know where you know what I need? I need like the little markers, like it'd be like this
like
is
a highlighted thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I don't know why, Brenner. So it was like 10, I feel like 10 something that it happened from memory.
Well, so how about if you start where where she says, were you able to dig deeper? So Christopher Cecil.
Is this it?
Is
this the time? I think that might be the time.
It is. And she said, were you able to dig deeper into Christopher Cecil's report? Because what she did was she used Christopher Cecil's report.
Right.
And she dug deeper into it. And and she put it up on the screen.
Right.
So this is the first time we used the screen today.
That we could kind of see it a little. I mean, it was far away.
Yeah, it was far away.
And it was like an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to see, right?
Yeah, and she had the witness go over to the screen.
Right.
She goes, okay, I want you to go over there. And the whole point was there was a log of Christopher Cecil's information.
And he's ISP.
And he testified.
And he had testified before.
Yes, he testified. Yeah. So she goes, keep going to the right. So as you're going to the right, she said, that's where you're going to find the more meaningful data. And in Christopher Cecil's testimony, he's, the meaningful data is steps, emails, text, all the social media stuff. And she goes, but where you're going to find all the major information is what Apple deems as blobs. And
like what?
And Christopher, okay. I think Christopher Cecil said, and actually she said too, it's going to be a bunch of numbers. And he stopped there. And she analyzed his data. Mm-hmm. It's a blob. And she took the blob and put it in forensic examination.
She said you go into like notes with it, right? So like you take that and you take the blob and you go into notes and it'll pull up a little bit more information. Mm-hmm. And that's what she did.
Yes.
And she found that at a time that I'm trying to get so I don't mess it up for you guys. I'm gonna get this,
yeah.
That the phone. You know what? It actually, I even have milliseconds, so I should just look. There it is. It's right there. Okay, got it right here. Okay, so it said that at 5:45 p.m. Mm-hmm. on the 13th, mm-hmm. so the day they went missing. Yes. Somebody inserted headphones. So this is the iPhone 6.
So wait, listen. If you guys all look at your notes, 5:44 p.m. was supposed to be the last known connection until 4:33
a.m. until 4:33.
But what she found in the blob, which she extracted, put into forensic file extraction, and because this is what she teaches on a daily basis, is what she found with that blob that nobody else actually examined was the blob was a start output audio. And the start output audio was at 5:45. Before
at 5:45.
Because before in the past we always knew it was 5:44. Well, this is 5:45. And what she said was before these external headphones were connected to the 6S iPhone, she said in milliseconds, before it was connected, she said milliseconds, there was a phone call.
There was an incoming phone call.
It connected to the tower, but the headphones plugged in.
So think about this. So milliseconds before the headphones plug in, she can tell that there's a phone call coming in to Libby's iPhone. So, and you guys, this is an iPhone 6. Okay, so think about
6S.
This. 6S. So back then. So what are we on now?
The year it was 2016.
What kind of? Because I have an Android. What kind of iPhone? What iPhones do you have? What
I
number
have
are
an
you guys on?
I have an iPhone
13, 16.
I have a 15.
Okay, so this is a 6. So this is way back, right? Okay, so at 5:45
mm-hmm.
that happened, mm-hmm. and she said in milliseconds before there was an incoming phone call. So then they plugged that in, right? But better than that, you guys. So you could do the math on this. At 10:32 p.m. So a little under 5 hours later, just under 15 minutes under. So 4 hours and 45 minutes later, someone removed the headphones.
Yeah,
from the phone.
There's like
and extracted it.
Extracted it, and this is in the data, and the data doesn't lie. So you can imagine, Nick McClellan was trying to discredit this lady over and over. Actually, throughout her entire testimony,
He was
really trying to discredit. You know, like to the point where you and I were like, "Oh my God, you know, I hope that the jury's not, you know, feeling the same way because." Because, you know, in my mind, and I told Teresa this too, Tonight Criminality, I said, in my mind, if you're law enforcement, maybe you have like an inside, you know, view of really what's going on. And this person's on the outside. But that's not how it is.
But she's FBI too. She worked for law
she worked for
enforcement.
FBI. Well, and he was trying to discredit her. He was like, well, when was the last time you did that? It was in 2009. And I said, guess what? The last time I went to college was in 1998. I've been practicing all along, but I haven't, you know, and I take I go to seminars and continuing ed like she does.
Education.
But the last time that I was, you know, went to school was back in 1998. Are you going to try to discredit me because it was back then? No, it's like the same thing. So the whole here's and I think you and I both said, would tell me what you really said to me. You're like, oh shit, what?
Well, I was like, this chick does not have enough expert credibility. Like she doesn't have enough expert under her belt. So people are going to poke holes at this. But
I kept saying, do you think that they're going to have Cecil and Bunner come back?
You did.
And I said, is it possible that the prosecution
is going to call them?
That?
She was like, is the prosecution going to call them? So then guess what happens? The defense calls them.
And the best thing happened was that the defense called because these two people, which were on the stand for a very short period of time.
Today, right?
Yes. Totally like it. I was going like sizzle, boom.
And it was
the prosecution.
It was because they basically having those two men on the stand today, the defense called those two men, counterbalanced everything Eldridge was saying. Because what she was saying, they couldn't refute. So it doesn't matter at that point about her expert opinion on anything. If we're just talking alone about the plug-in at the times that was plugged in and then taken out. Because they said, they even asked her, they said, what can account for that? She goes, nothing but human. It's a human thing.
So a human being had to plug it in at 5. So listen, Cecil and Bunner made everybody believe.
Yep.
Well, because that's all they listen. I'll give the benefit of the doubt. They believed it because they didn't pursue any further extraction. They didn't look into it.
They didn't go.
So everybody. So listen. You know what?
Yeah.
You know. You only know what you know. That's it. And so if you're ignorant to the rest of it, you're not maybe going to solve this. This stuff is going to be left untouched. This right here. This lady right here who teaches people in universities, she says, because, you know, Nick McClellan continually, this was, I told a lot of people, I said, this was a combative day. It was combative in many ways. It was very combative. So, good night, our little line sitter. That's our line sitter.
She's so cute.
Listen, you guys, this is expensive.
She's so
okay.
Cute. It is.
I'm going to interrupt for a second, but you tell. I'm not into true crime at all. Tell your viewers
who you are.
How competitive is this case to get in line, to get a place in line? How does it compare to other places?
There's never been a case like this. I mean, in so many ways. People can argue. Like, I have done true crime. I've written for true crime. I've done true crime for. Oh my God, I'm going to date one. Okay, over 25 years. Okay, you guys. So I've never heard, and I haven't done every true crime case. I mean, I'm not a cop or anything, but I've never, ever seen a case like this where things are hidden as much as they are. And then when it finally goes, you know, after all this time, we go to court and we cannot have, we can't have any transparency with like cameras in the courtroom. And maybe we're not owed it. I don't know. I kind of disagree with that. I think we're owed a little bit of transparency here because, especially in a case like this, at least if you don't want us in there, don't have us in there, but have a camera in there so we're not going back and forth, because every day I find a discrepancy. I'm not even trying to. I find a discrepancy with what is said in mainstream media and what is said with another mainstream media thing, and then when you're actually sitting in there, it's not even really, they're paraphrasing. Sometimes they're even putting it in quotes. And as a journalist, you're putting that in quotes. It's such a no-no with journalism. And I don't even know. It's insane. But Julie, this is the case Julie does. Julie does this, but Julie's been close to this case from day one. So that's why, though. I mean, you're incredibly close to this case. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say, if people don't know, I'm not going to say how. You can say it if you want, but I'm not going to give away your information.
Day one.
From day one. Yeah.
Day one I've been in here.
Yeah.
So where are you at?
That was like the big thing, right?
But you and I were like, you're like, oh no. You said, oh no. So Nick McClellan is trying to degrade her credibility. Oh, well, you don't know about Delphi. Did you get into ISP? Did you look at the topography? Did you look at this?
Did you go out to the crime scene?
Yeah, like, no. But you know what? It didn't matter, because guess what? Cecil and Bunner, it didn't matter. It's extraction. And even though they haven't physically looked at Libby's phone, there's software that you just continually look and look and look and look. So what she did was she then looked at their stuff, and she went beyond that
blob.
And she said, when she got up to that screen, she goes, keep scrolling to the right.
All the good stuff's at the right.
All the good stuff's at the right. It's the more meaningful stuff. And guess what Apple does? When you see a bunch of numbers, it's called blob. And the blob is where the two officers, Bunner and Cecil, which we will find out here because it's a very quick little, direct and cross. It's very quick. They both, right when we were like, oh my God, is this lady going to screw the defense? Yeah, she actually made the defense look good, because she made kind of the state look bad, because the state had no idea what she was talking about. Yeah. And that was where that was pretty much the cherry on top, icing on the cake. Yeah. Because this lady knew more. She looked beyond what Christopher Cecil and Brian Bunner, is that his name? Ever looked like. These guys are supposed to be the experts. They've testified in the ICAT cases. Okay. Mm-hmm. They testified in Keegan Klein case, right? Mm-hmm. They testified in that, and they didn't know this. This lady gives classes on this. So we're going to talk about that, because I think it's really important that she took the blob, and the blob turned into gold. Turned into, hey, there was headphones, and they actually demonstrated the 6S. They plugged it in, and then they unplugged it to show you what it looks like. But they did this whole thing where this is when Nick was asking her. He's like, this is the first time you've testified about cell phone analysis. Don't get me started on Klein. Do you talk to your people? Why be so nosy? Don't get me started on Klein. I get that. Don't even. I know she does. She's been around from a long time. She's a really good girl. Who are you on now? I'm trying to get to Bunner, because I don't like when Nick's saying all this stuff, because I didn't. Did you do tomorrow? Cecil yet? No. I'll do Cecil tomorrow. I'll do a real in depth of everything that went down. Cecil. I feel like everyone was live tonight. Look how short Cecil. There's Cecil and there's Bunner, and that's it. I think that mine's gonna be the exact same thing. Then we could get to the jury questions. I swear, I don't even know if maybe I already passed Cecil and Bunner. No, that's how quick it was. Do you want me to? We're missing. No, let's sit. Chad, we're on a live. Okay, so the jury questions they asked her. So this is before they go on. So the jury says, did you write your own timeline? And she says, no time. And they said, this is interesting. They said, can it be with that it was synced
can it be that it was synced with the iPad from Libby's phone?
Yeah.
And she goes, I don't think so. I don't think it was syncing with the iPhone. And then the other question is, would iPad have its own knowledge like on the pad? And she goes, yes, but like syncs are files.
Yeah.
Okay, so listen, this is what sealed it for
Water
me. This
and
was the
moisture.
big bomb drop for me that I was like, Nick, you are a freaking idiot.
about
You
the
are
water,
an idiot. Yeah, you are
moisture.
an idiot that you did this, because if you kept your mouth shut, and if the jury is even remotely smart, like if you would have kept your mouth shut. So this is what happened. So the jury asks, could water or moisture have made it do that thing where you thought that it was headphones?
Connecting to headphones.
Could that be it? And she goes, I don't know. Nick McLeland decides to ask. He goes, hold on a second, let me ask. Can water affect the port on a headphone?
Which we all know with our own iPhones.
But the crazy thing is that's giving merit to her testimony, because if she's over here saying, look, your dudes didn't find that, right? So if you don't ask that means like, who cares what you found? I'm not giving it merit. But now you're asking, hey, was that true? Did that happen?
The prosecution never checked the phone for water. And look, it came on, they plugged it in. They never said anything about it. And, basically, who testified that said, it would have been, I think it was Cecil that said it would have been law enforcement that would have had access to the water to see if there was water damage or if there was mud in the port.
But see, what happened today for me is the fact that you have the defense witness saying this. And if you just let the jury ask, and then you don't ask as a prosecutor, ask any more questions to that, it's almost like it's not giving merit to the expert. But the fact that he said, he asked her, he furthered the question that the jury asked. And he said, so do you think that water can affect a port? It's almost like then it's giving merit to, it is true. Something did get plugged in, because you can call it water or not call it water, but it did do it.
That's interesting. I never even thought about that.
That was that thing that was like mind blowing to me. I'm like, oh my God, you idiot. You just totally gave away your case. You could have just kept your mouth shut.
Can I just say something? Okay. If it doesn't matter if you're the prosecution or the defense, if there is a witness that is giving information that is beyond the scope of even what law enforcement has been able to obtain, why would you not want that information? I get it. Question it. How did you get it? And then understand it, but don't try to debunk it. Okay? Don't try to debunk it.
Try to get the facts because you want what's real, right?
Yeah.
So she goes, I'm not sure. And then another question they asked is, was the ringer on silent or vibrate? She goes, I didn't notice. These are all jury questions still. Then they said, did someone do the headphone to scramble? Like, did someone put the headphone in there to scramble the phone? And she said, Eldridge said, I wasn't able to find that. I did research it. I did try to research that, but I wasn't able to find if that does something to scramble it. Someone said, could you look on Richard Allen's device? Can you look for the ting on Richard Allen's device? And she goes, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. They asked, would you have to have Richard? This is freaking interesting. This question was so interesting from the jury. Would you have to have Richard Allen's phone to be able to tell, to look at his phone? And then Nick McLeland says his 2017 phone, like to basically be like, no one has it. And she goes, you don't have to have his phone to look. No kidding, guys. Did you look at Richard Allen's phone, prosecution?
Wait a second. So when Shelby, what's her name yesterday? Shelby Hicks testified. Was Shelby Hicks, right?
Yeah.
When she testified yesterday, she said that she had a 2017 phone at the time, and she gave really good information. And when the defense said, did the law enforcement ask you for the information on your phone? No. Did they extract any data? No. if they would have asked you for your phone to extract data, would you have given it? She said yes. He said, do you to this day know where your 2017 phone is? She said no. Well, either does Richard Allen. Listen, okay, so, and people will say, oh, Richard Allen had all these phones, but he didn't have that one. Okay, I have a lot of phones. Well, I went with another provider and they told me, we want your old phone. We want to trade or whatever.
That's right. You had to trade.
And
sometimes you do have to trade your phone.
If I would have traded mine in 2017 and 4 years later, I was still with the same provider, I would be like, I don't know where that phone is. So it's not unusual to not know where the phone is. And by the way, do you remember when Baldwin, I don't know if it was Baldwin it was Baldwin, he said he was talking to Mullen on the stand the other day, and he says, there have been, many mistakes in the investigation. And he said one of the mistakes was that Dan Doolin, allegedly who Richard Allen gave his testimony to at a grocery store, Dan Doolin transposed, which he mixed up numbers.
Like having dyslexia a little bit.
Mixed up numbers in a computer. And the way I see this is, if you're going to transpose numbers, my mind went right to the IMEI number, because we were told in a report that Dan Doolin wrote down the IMEI number. He looked at Richard Allen's phone, wrote down the IMEI number, because they still had the address. So since they still had the correct address, my mind is that the transposition was his IMEI number. And Baldwin's good about kind of putting it out there for the jury and leaving you to kind of think about, but
not bringing it home.
So that might be why, because I've been told, and I don't know if you know this, you don't necessarily need the phone if you have all the correct numbers. You have the cell tower, you have the Celebrite, and you can put all that stuff in. I don't know enough about it, so maybe you know more than I do.
Well, that's also what she's saying here is, I don't have to have his phone to get all this. And that was a jury question. I thought that was brilliant for them to ask that. Mm-hmm. So the next jury question they asked of her was, were there any other apps on Libby's phone that recorded movement? And she goes, yes, WhatsApp does that.
I didn't know that.
Now you're
like, I'm on WhatsApp. I'm like, I'm on WhatsApp. It's recording me every movement.
And then the last question was, are there any other apps that do that? And she goes, I didn't check.
Yeah, she didn't check.
So now we're just gonna say really quick what First Sergeant Christopher Cecil said. So he was called. So he did the phone stuff. He was already called to stand. So now the defense has called him back, and it was
okay. So here's the thing. We were sitting there in court, and I was like, Job, if they don't, Cecil needs to be called back. Would the prosecution have the opportunity? And she's like, she and Lana was there. She's like, no, they've rested. I said, but they need to come back. And then the next thing we know, the defense is calling Cecil. And that, I will say something about Cecil and what's his name? Bunner. I will say they are very respectful in even in their answers as far as law enforcement.
No, that was true.
They're very respectful.
They were respectful.
Honest.
That's actually true. That's very true.
They
were respectful.
Not like some of the others.
Not like some of the others. Bunner was even kind of like, hi, really cheery. I was like, wait,
is he sweet? No,
is he an ISB officer?
Those people give me hope when you, when you come into the Delphi case and you have rose-colored glasses and you believe that, the judge is going to be unbiased and for the people, and you think that both sides are unbiased and for the people, and you realize the darkness and the abuse of power, not just by judge and prosecution, but also by law enforcement officers. And I'm not saying that about everybody, because there were some kind people. However, you could see this power trip with certain people that were delegated the responsibility of this power. And it made me scared.
Like the last live we did that we can't ever show our live that was really good that we did. The live we did in March.
So you guys,
we did this amazing live after
March 18th
on my channel, and It's private. One day it might not be private. We should just show it now. We should just drop it just really quick and then just no. But yeah, so it was I privated it for a reason or took it down, whatever you want to call
She
it.
was very sweet to do that because I was
No, because you asked, and I don't care about like
I appreciate
YouTube clout means nothing to me. Like I just want to do the right
I got
thing.
a very disturbing message from a very person high up in law enforcement.
After watching my live, I'm like, why?
And he never would have seen Schaub's live on his own. And I happen to know two of the people that gave it to him with
It's
a very
okay.
vindictive narrative. But the bottom line is, for this person who is my friend, who's high up in law enforcement, to send me a message, it basically shattered my heart.
But it's okay because you know what it's about.
I knew that it meant a lot bigger picture. Like, here's what it did to me. This is a spiritual battle between good and evil. And you may never know. This lady is so nice. This YB so nosy. She's writing a lot of notes.
She's really good.
We should reread her stuff if
She's
there's any
really
questions.
good.
Yeah.
She is. Especially at a given specific time. She knows this stuff. She's been in a true crime and she's really smart about it. And she's really supportive.
Yeah.
So you guys, we'll make it quick because we're gonna have to go to bed soon.
Well, no,
and
listen, Christopher,
too.
you guys, Christopher Cecil. Oh,
Thanks,
thanks, doll.
She's so cute.
Listen, Christopher Cecil and Bunner, when they came on, we're like, oh my god.
No,
okay, so Auger, I just went like.
Ajay, what Nick
boom.
McLeland
Okay.
calls Auger. Nick McLeland can't say her
Nick
name.
can't do Auger, right? Okay.
Maybe tomorrow he will.
So I'm in here because I can't watch the election stuff because I'm like I don't even tell me I can't do it. Like, Lord Jesus, please. I just hope it dries out,
So
for the people.
Cecil, he just gets on. It's like on and off, but like it kind of solidified the expert witness today, you guys. It was kind of good. Okay. So, I mean, it was good. So, they say, go to line. So Ajay gets it and they go to line. You previously testified. Here's exhibit P. Okay. And they say, go to line 458. He's there.
Oh, he says, we prepared as part of the is it the extraction, whatever it says timeline. There's a note at 452 and 458 audio input start. Do you know what that is?
Do you know what audio input start is?
And he says right away. She just went to him right away. Okay, you guys, we've already talked about this. Audio input start is plugging headphones in. Okay, we already know this. He says, this is the boom. I do not. Are you able to discuss the reason that the cell phone connected to a tower? Because remember, the cell phone connected to the tower at 5:45, a minute later than what everybody has known all this time from Cecil and Bunner. And he says, I do not. I don't have that. Those are his exact quotes.
And they say, is this the area of expertise? Like how a cell phone connects to a tower? Is that your area of expertise? And he goes, no, I can't. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're the dude that testified about this. How is this even like a thing? And then Nick McLeland chimes in.
Oh, yeah. He's like, oh, were you present when, because he said, were you present during, Eldridge's testimony during the log at 458? Says, according to what Eldridge testified to, it would be headphones inserted in Libby German's, phone.
This is amazing, you guys.
Says, were you able to ID the time? Amazing. He's like, no. So the most recent research was 2022. Yes. So you weren't able to say that the headphones were plugged in, or he's like, correct.
Did you find that? Did you find that headphones? Like,
no. Okay. What about water damage? Okay. So get this. Before this testimony started with Eldridge, the Nick McClellan asked if Cecil and Bunner
could sit in.
could sit in.
And that happens sometimes. So he asked the court, outside the presence of the jury, if it was okay if Cecil and Bunner sat in while Eldridge, who's going to be tested, who's the expert witness with cell phones, could sit in. And they were allowed to.
She said so. If at 5:45 Richard Allen was supposed to be
Right.
gone, who was messing with the phone?
Exactly.
So this is the whole point here.
Who was
Yeah.
it?
So that's what they're saying. And like basically, Ajay, boom, like, hey, do you know what the headphone audio output start means? No, I don't know. And Nick was, listen, okay, so I even was saying to Shop, which I probably got in trouble because Judge Gold said some mean things about basically law enforcement. I think it was law enforcement, right? Spying on people.
They said, yeah, they've been
So
hearing
if we're whispering to each other and we're being really quiet, but Judge Gold doesn't hear it and nobody else hears it, well, guess what? Law enforcement is listening and tattling. This sounds like 1932 over in Germany because law enforcement tattled. They went to Judge Gull and Judge Gull like scorned of a the
she was upset. Gull was like, listen, if anyone talks anymore, you're gonna get a tap on your shoulder,
and we're gonna escort you out. You'll never come back again.
And she's had some, not just her, but like there's been moments in there. There's a lot of tension in there right now, you guys.
Oh, there's a lot of tension
changing.
You know what I feel like? I feel like she sees that the prosecution has dropped the ball. And I have to say that I think that Nick McClellan is a good prosecutor.
He's doing a good job.
I mean, he's from small town USA. He's doing a really good job.
I think he's doing better than he did in March.
Well, he is.
Yeah.
And the problem is your law enforcement are only so good. So you could be the best prosecutor.
Sure.
But all your law enforcement officers that are trying to support you, supposed to support you, and they get on the stand, the balls drop. Like you could do your job, but like you can only do so much.
But he doesn't also have to prosecute. He can like be like, we should go for something lower, like kidnapping, because I can't prove anything other than that.
Okay, so yeah, he could
have done that, right?
That.
Or he could have at least like said it. But let's tell them about this. Let's tell them about this part about what happened at this part with Cecil. So they said, could it have gotten wet? And he goes, Nick has asked this, and he goes, well, I went out and I Googled it right now on the I went and Googled that.
So he was in there during court, and then he went out and he Googled.
So
and she's
he
like,
Googled
and
it.
Ajay's like, wait a minute.
No, so Ajay's not up yet. So they're like,
okay.
Google. And then when Ajay did the best hand movement when she got up there, I was just dying. Because in my head, what I'm thinking, you guys, is like, so it's that happened in 2017. You went out and said, if iPhone gets wet, can it make it look like headphones went in? It's not going to tell you about a water
damage.
It's not going to tell you about an iPhone 6S.
You Google about water damage.
It's not, but it's not going to tell you about an iPhone 6S. So I'm over here writing in the things. I'm like, what model phone is it? What phone is it? And afterwards, I went up to Baldwin when court was done. And I'm like, how do you feel? And he's like, I feel really good because of what happened. And I'm like, I'm like, Ajay did really good, but geez, do you think that he even like Googled iPhone? Did iPhone 6S come up?
So Ajay goes, wait a minute. What Google site did you use?
He goes, she puts her hands up and she's like, wait, let me get on camera. She's like, what Google site did you use?
And he goes,
lots of sites.
Many. When people need help troubleshooting stuff, they look on Google. She was like, wait a minute. But then Nick came and says, well, you testified that this is accurate.
We Googled it. I Googled the answer. I Googled it.
This was embarrassing. He goes, did you look into the access, like the output function, start output function? He said, no. Do you normally go to Google? So now this is LJ. Do you normally go to Google? And he's like, no. So you normally go to peer review like you do when you would, do your report. You do peer review and you do the extraction, you do a report, right? Well, yeah. So are there things on the World Wide Web that are not reliable, yes, that are false, that you could be misleading. People are putting crap out there all the time. And he's like, well, yeah. So Ajay said, so normally you use a peer review. Yes. Did you look for water damage? No. Do you know anyone that looked for water damage? He goes, not to my knowledge. Now I'm going to say this, even though they didn't look for it, I'm going to guess 100% there was no water damage, because when they plugged that phone in on the 15th, they were able to get an extraction, which they really should not have plugged it in, which is what they say later, is because you extract before you turn it on. Before you turn it on, you do an extraction before.
Yes,
you turn it on.
because
And
that's what she was saying.
So
that's also something that Eldridge was saying on the stand. She's like, there's been so many times that you lose data when you turn your phone on and off. There's certain data you use
every time.
And there was so many times that this phone has been, and she named off every time.
Every time
this
it's
phone
on
has
off,
been turned on and off.
She even said every 28 to 30 days, data is lost.
Yeah.
So if you turn it on, data's lost. If you turn it off, data's lost. And you'll never know what data's lost.
Yeah. And she's like, and you're losing that data. So what happened is she goes, okay. And they try to object to hearsay. They're like, Google search is hearsay, and it was overruled.
What about the dirt too? What about the dirt? Was the dirt found? Well, he didn't know, because that was the Google search, whether water or dirt could get in that. But listen,
crazy.
I'll go back to what Eldridge said, is when there's a blob and there's numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go further to.
You know what happens with your phone when you get water on it, right? It doesn't even plug in. You have to dry it out and everything. No, but iPhone, when it's working and you go to plug headphones on, that is going to create a blob, and it's numbers and it's actual data. Data doesn't lie.
Data doesn't. It's not fallible.
Did you notice something? Nobody questioned, not even Nick McClellan questioned the data about headphones being plugged in.
Seriously,
all he tried to say is like, well,
seriously,
maybe it's water making it malfunction, maybe it's dirt making it malfunction, but he never questioned this blob about the data where it shows audio input start.
And then how about output? How about it getting taken out too? All of it. And that's what they keep. And they keep saying. So that's what she's asking, and Ajay's asking. Cecil on the stand, and they said, did you look at accessor to like out function? And he said no. He said, so you said that you had accurate, reliable logs. And so what's going on here? And they said, do you normally look up Google when you're researching? And he goes, no. He said, are there things online that aren't accurate, that might be false? And he goes, yes. He goes, do you like Google, do you go to the World Wide Web to do your research, or like do you go to peer reviews? And he's like, well, I go to peer reviews.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just thought she was so on the ball with that. And he wasn't, and Cecil wasn't being a jerk, right? He was like, he was
really nice. And one thing that Ajay, she really hammered this home. She was like, listen, you had 7.5 years to turn in information.
Yes.
And you didn't. You had all this time. Had all this opportunity.
Yes.
You've had all this technology at your hands.
Haven't done it.
Like, look, this lady that they hired from the state did this. So while Nick's trying to discredit her, and they didn't say that, but this is kind of like the underlying undertone. While he's trying to discredit her, listen, these guys didn't know jack crap about what that was. And and listen, look how short Brian Bunner is. Brian Bunner is literally here on down.
No,
it's so
seriously.
short. He was on there like for 3 minutes. They literally called him.
I think mine's even short. Like, look at, like, I can't even do it on here because it's always backwards, but it's like from here, and then the rest is going to be jury. This is all like what the jury does. So it's like just this.
And the jury did nothing. Basically,
the jury didn't ask anything. I'm just like, number 6 leans back to talk to number 12.
So Ajay said, you previously testified on
this Bunner.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is Brian Bunner. He's ISP. He's the one that did the extraction.
You said you worked on Libby's phone.
On Libby German's phone on 2/15/2017. have you done anything since? He goes, well, you mean physically or otherwise? Because they did it otherwise, which was like September and October.
Yeah, they're like,
which
did you
they
do physical
So
extractions?
he didn't do any physical extraction. So we know he did the other stuff. It's the same thing that Eldridge did. Okay, so it's no different, but she's actually more advanced because she was able to take the blob out,
to
right?
the blob.
Okay,
And then
this is going to get down to the blob. Do you know what audio output start means? Do you know what audio output
Same
start?
question for Cecil that he asked. No. They don't
These
know.
are the two top experts.
They don't know. And they go,
No.
and that's it. No more questions.
Says during the break,
Right?
did you do, oh wait, hey, Bunner, during the break, did you do any Google searches?
Oh,
And he's
yeah,
like,
they did ask
no.
him. He's like, no.
No.
Okay.
And jury had no questions, and there was a sidebar, and then,
And
by
then
the
we're
way,
done.
you guys know we got chastised. Like,
How
listen,
many times did we get chastised?
No, so I wrote what I wrote down is Judge Gold, and I had not a very choice.
Don't say it. Don't even say it.
Okay,
say
I'll
it.
tell you.
That was private.
Here's what she says. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the security have said that folks are talking in the gallery. Stop talking. If the court security sees you speaking, they will come and tap you on the shoulder, and they will escort you out, and you will not be coming back. No talking.
She did get kind of
She said it
rowdy
like
at
that.
the end.
Guess what? The jury wasn't in, because the jury comes in. She goes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
She can't show
amazing.
She does.
Oh,
so
you've had
nice
a
of
wonderful.
them.
Oh,
She
thank
does.
you. If they
She
saw
is
her,
sweet.
it's like,
when they're there.
I want to say, biatch, let them see you how you are, right?
Well, how you are to us. She's nice. She's not. She has
It's not
umbrage
even
with-
real.
It's bizarre.
Why be so nosy? She's like, we're having a conversation with her one-on-one. We pay their wages. That's exactly right. Okay, so hey, why be so nosy? I want to know something. What do you think about this? The prosecution had over $2 million to fund this case. At the very last minute, a week before they go on this case, they asked for double the money.
Well, more than 2.2
more
more million.
So in Carroll County, which somebody was asking me today, what do you think that means to the people here? I mean, people are poor here. I mean, there's people that have some wealth, they're farmers, but there are people that don't have a lot of money. People that are, just like on Medicare, Medicaid, all that stuff. It's $200 extra for all these people. I mean, and they may not even understand what their taxes are going to be. But
that's so.
But why was that money? Why? Yeah, it's $200. They got it down to $200 a person. Look at the population of Carroll County. I haven't looked at that yet, but the population of Carroll County and the 2.2 million total four and a half million almost. And this is going to be in a town of 3,000 people, and a county of I don't know how many. It's not that many.
People better plan to pay more taxes. That's what she's saying.
And you are now this is the most costly double homicide case in the history of Indiana.
Yeah, it's bad,
and look how law enforcement's done.
I have to get in the shower. I have to go to bed. But tomorrow I'm gonna just tell you guys, look at my hair, you guys. It's been raining.
Thank you. I'd be so nosy.
Thank you guys all for being here. And I know, I haven't gone live in forever. I've just been doing all this behind the scenes stuff.
Mystify says somebody do an audit and check the judges and Nick's and bank account. Seriously, if we could,
here. We're about to leave. Darksea, my mod. Yes. Hi, Darksea. Love you. Yeah, we should. Why? Yes, we should. Nick and the others' bank accounts, dude, they're making so much. Wait, I think we read that they made. How much did we read that Carter made? Was it 300 something thousand? I think so. I think I told you.
I didn't know that.
Don't quote me on it. Nobody quoted. Nobody quote me on it yet.
I didn't know that. Well, it's public record, right?
You guys
public
are
record.
So cute. Look. Glad
Public
you finally
record.
went live. Thank you guys.
All these people come back. Right,
yeah, well, I'm gonna tomorrow. I'm gonna be live, you guys. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna start doing it.
Can
daily.
you guys so
my hair. Look at
we
it's not even that curly. Like,
oh, that's so
but it was-
cute. Oh, that's pretty.
it was
Oh,
raining today.
So
though.
what? We could
Says
we
she
could
loves us.
we could come here on. We could come here at 7. Like we could be on live at like 6 or 7.
We don't know when we're gonna get up, but yeah.
Okay, so it's done for sure by 6, and we could come at 7.
we could probably do a
but
7.
but a lot of times, like I think Judge Gull, like oh, did you tell me that Judge Gull was falling asleep today?
I
Somebody
saw her
said
sleeping.
it was
I
like
saw
a-
her. She was like this.
Oh,
She was
hey,
up
did
there
you
like
did
this,
you
and she
tell
was
did you
like-
tell your audience that one of the jurors yelled today?
Wait, what? Why was that when I had to go downstairs so I didn't miss the second half like I did yesterday?
It was during the
Was
testimony.
it during after? Was it?
It
cross?
was the gun.
It was cross of
extraction.
gun.
Yes.
Yeah, no. What you didn't tell me what
Oh.
happened. I was downstairs waiting in line to get in because nothing's
wait,
fair in
okay.
Carroll County.
Okay, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this, but okay, so this juror, I really like him. He's juror number 6. I've often thought that he might have.
I love juror number 6.
I think he should be.
He's
the foreman.
He's the most.
And he was the one that was like,
when he's
with
watching all the
Richard
videos,
Allen,
he's like,
and he even looked away like this, and he's
Crystal.
like, and he wouldn't even look like this. That yesterday he kept looking away with the videos, and he was looking. There were people just looking away, and he put his head in his hand, and he was shaking his head.
he's really
Okay.
like, yeah.
So
It's
today,
amazing.
when
Good.
Latrell, okay,
I
the
missed
fireworks were with Latrell crossing the gun expert guy. What's his name?
Warren,
Dr.
Eric
Warren.
Warren.
And Dr. Eric Warren. I wanted to say you held your own, dude. I thought he held strong.
But wait,
because-
the juror. Tell me what the juror yelled out.
Okay, so Latrell's asking questions, and so Latrell's asking questions. The witness is trying to answer. Brad Rosie is getting ready to interject,
Oh my
and
God.
the juror, all at the same time, the juror goes, "Let him answer.
Number 6 said, "Let him answer."
Let him answer the
What did
question."
Gull do?
And they just said, "Yeah, let him answer the question." He just said, "Let him answer the question." He lost it. The guy with the blue shirt, long sleeve shirt today, juror number 6.
6 lost it.
Yes, he lost it. And I'm like, "Oh my God!" He just said, and Nancy's like, "I just saw him." She goes, "Did you see him?"
Was it loud?
Yeah, it was
loud?
really loud.
That
it was
is
very
crazy.
loud.
You
He
guys,
said, let him answer the question, because Latrell was asked. Okay, by the way, Latrell kept
What?
asking.
You guys, we were downstairs. Okay, listen, we were downstairs because we have to hold our place so we can go back. So we left early for cross because if we don't, we're not
I was
going to
still
see
there.
the second half.
I didn't leave because these guys got our place in line. Thank you so much.
No,
And-
and we had people. Yeah, no, we had to do it because yesterday we didn't.
It's
she got in by the
cutthroat.
she got in by the skin of her teeth because someone gave
And
up
then
their spot for her.
and
Because
my friend Nancy gave her spot, and we both cried because we've been in this from the
I
beginning,
know, that was
and it
cute.
was really hard.
So,
like that she
you-
didn't get to go in, and people might be going like, "Oh, boo hoo," but no, it's
No,
near
it's-
and dear to our hearts.
We're up at like 4 a.m.
Yeah, it's really hard, but
It's crazy.
this juror, I'll say, I'll say he's probably been the most he's strong and stern, but he's also, I feel like
He's sensitive.
he is, and I feel like he has a lot of strong moral character, because what he was seeing on these videos, he was turning away and he was looking, and he shook his hand, his head in his hand, and then that's when Latrell was like basically fireworks, or it was like a gun shootout, because Latrell was so aggressive because the gun expert was destroying what Melissa Oberg put out there. And so Latrell would ask question after question. And the one thing that I noticed, it was like, he'd be like, "Judge, he keeps answering the question. I just want a yes or no." And it's like, "Mommy,
What a tattletale.
Mommy, help me."
Little crybaby.
Like Judge, he just won't stop answering the question. It's like, dude, you just asked him a question. He's answering it. He's trying to clarify it. And then Judge Gold in a low voice goes, "Just answer the question. It's a yes or no. It's a yes or no." Like that.
Latrell cuts people off those. It wasn't even his witness.
But
when
Goal,
he
you
does that.
know that Goal is for all the way for the prosecution. She's going to do everything she can to make them happy.
Ridiculous, you guys.
It's sickening. This is why my rose-colored glasses
are off.
They're off. I mean, it's enough to make me cry, and I have cried about it because
it is a slumber party. Honey.
I grew up in a small town of Florida, and I always believed the best in people. And I have a little bit of naiveness because I love people. I believe we're all created in the image of God, and that we should do everything we can to help people that are less fortunate, no matter where you came from. And it's
really
disturbing. It's disturbing.
Well, you guys, Julie does. Julie has an
good heart.
heart.
Listen to this person.
She has a really good heart.
I have to tell her mama what a good heart she has.
You said that in the beginning.
You
Now
do.
we have to tell my mom. No, we have to call her tomorrow. I can't. Not for you to tell her I have a good heart, but because I promised her. I promised her a call.
Shab is every bit of like what you see on here is who Shab is. She's beautiful. No, you're a beautiful heart.
I don't know if
we
they know
became
that's
friends
my
over
name.
this whole Delphi thing. Oh, Bella?
Some of them do. Well, I don't care. They can know my name, but they're like, who the hell
are you Bella
is
to them?
Yeah.
Oh, Bella.
I'm not Bella to you though.
No,
I'm not. But no, it's all the same. Yeah, it's all the same. I'm just but like you're just. I love you. You're amazing.
She's so sweet.
This is gonna die on us. Did you see how it got dark?
Yeah.
You guys, thank you so much. We will be here tomorrow. Julie, thank you so much for being with me.
I hope I didn't interject.
Oh no, dude! It's like they want us to have a pillow fight already.
Oh, okay.
They think it's a slumber party.
Just tell your people, tell your friends. We'll be on here.
We will. We're gonna do. I'm gonna start doing more lives.
Because I think it's really important for you guys to know what's going on. Because hey, I have to tell you something before you guys go. Okay, so I was on criminality. I was just giving her the notes, and she's like, "Hey, Julie, you need to cut to the chase because we need to clarify some stuff. Sleuthy's on here, Sleuthy Goosey, and she wants to know this." And we heard that ABC was reporting something was false, which Barbara McDonald took it and she reported it because it was in the notes. It was false, and then Bob Segal,
maybe seven
Siegel, whatever, it was false. So these people put these notes in and they compiled them. And so I was able to determine, I was like, no, because they were asking about Richard Allen's daughter, Brittany Zapata. And they said, did your dad ever molest you or sexually touch you in any way? She said, no. Okay. The second question was, do you love your father? Yes. The third question was, would you ever lie for your father? She said, no. They asked the same thing to Jamie, Jamie Miller, his sister. Okay. And it was the same questions, the same answers. So what happened was ABC News, okay, this is a legitimate news source. They got it wrong. But then Barbara McDonald and Bob Siegel, they all took their notes. So they all had to apologize profusely. So that's why I say, take it from people that are there and taking these notes, and we're getting every little detail.
We are.
We're trying to. Like sometimes these witnesses will just like, they just, and we can't they give this fast narrative that like you can't possibly, and judge doesn't care if you can hear.
Well, she'll whisper.
I seriously don't think they have a microphone up there, but I don't really think the microphone is on.
No, but Rosie will be like, if you talk and that's not going to matter, just try to like project your voice because he knows that we can't hear anything in there.
Yeah.
I think that's good. Thank you guys so much. Good night before this dies on us. We love you. They're going to come tomorrow and hang out and have a slumber party with us.
Okay. Do you ever need to talk to your people?
I kind of am. I do sometimes, but because
they're like crazy with the report without validating, she actually said that. So
that's true, Mystify. Yes. That is so true. And YB knows, see, like this is how much I suck at doing it. Like when I try to show it,
you have to say, do you guys? Hey, wait. Before we go, do you guys have any questions for us?
Okay.
You should always ask your people.
If it dies on them, just know we didn't cut you out.
I have a charger.
Like, if you have any questions, let us know.
Wait. Yeah.
She can go and go. She has 24-hour shifts, and it's like that's her taking a break. Where's Ginger? She brought her hubby came, made us dinner tonight, and then brought the dog. And I'm like in heaven because it's been so long. Yeah, Bella, ask if we have questions. I know I suck. I suck, don't I? I'll say no's. I'm gonna go take a shower. We'll do this tomorrow. We'll do questions after we get rest. Okay, love you guys. Thank you guys so much. Have a good night. Okay, wait, one question. Hold on. Mystified. Will you be in court every day? Yes. I'll be in court every day after this. If I can get in, like if they like mess with me, I'll send me lollipops. I think I have like 2 left. My thumbnail didn't have a lollipop. I felt so bad. I'm kidding. I'll be fine. Yeah, I'll be in court unless something like crazy happens. One of us will at least be in court. So we'll see what happens. Thank you guys. Have a good night. Thanks for being here. Yes, at least 7, maybe 8 Eastern. We'll see what happens. Thank you guys. Enjoy yourselves. Thanks for being here. It's been a long time. Good night. Bye.